Coming up, Colin and Jimmy welcome the mold medic, Michael Rubino. They talk about moisture, mold, toxicity, and remediation. What are some DIY tips to tackle mold in your home? When should you call an expert, and how do you choose the right company? Find out in this episode.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Studs, your home improvement and remodeling podcast, where the two most entertaining guys discuss the do's and don'ts in home construction and in the remodeling industry. Remember that you can nail it, paint it, or just tune into the show. How about that? Here are your hosts, Colin Shaw and Jimmy Driscoll.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Studs. Hello, Jim.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
I'm just freaking awesome today. How about you, buddy?
I am fantastic.
That's what I like to hear.
You know what's really sad, though? We're really good friends, and we shouldn't lie to each other like that.
Well, you know what?
Yeah. We're going to lie to everybody else.
Saving the relationship.
Yeah. We're gonna lie to the audience. As far as they know, we are great.
Don't let them see you sweat. That's right. I'm limping. I'm limping with a bad knee. How you doing? I'm freaking fantastic.
Well, that's good.
Well, I saw an old man today in the hardware store. He
Yeah.
had the white. Oh my God, it's me.
In a couple
Oh my
more
God,
years.
it's me in 10 years. The
Damn.
guy, poor bastard, he's got white sneakers,
Uh-huh.
black socks.
Oh, nice.
You know, up the calf.
Do you know that that's back in, though? Like, younger guys are wearing that.
Good.
Yeah, black socks
Good
that
for
high
them.
up. Yeah.
Good. And
I
they
know.
have no friends either.
Well, I don't know about that, but
then of course he's got the shorts.
yeah.
That are just like, I don't know, like they hit the knees.
Yeah.
About the knees. But this is the killer.
Oh, no. Here
He's
it goes.
got a belt
Yeah.
with the suspenders.
Oh,
So the
nice.
suspenders around the belt.
Right.
Right.
It's a
And a white
Yeah.
t-shirt with the V-neck. And he's bow-legged, like I can go bowling. It's like a bowling between his legs. And I'm like, oh my God, that is me. And he's just shuffling along.
probably happy.
Probably.
You
He
know?
turned around and said, "You're gonna be me someday." I'd be like, "Yep,
Yep.
see it coming."
Yep. See you next week.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right.
Start
Enough,
talking
yes,
yesterday.
enough of us just complaining and stuff here. So we have today with us Michael Rubino. He's the
Michael.
mold medic and also co-owner of All American Restoration. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Doing
you know
good.
how we're doing. You
Yeah.
know how we're doing.
Yeah, you got to hear a little bit before we started. So
Well, this is going to be an interesting topic because a lot of people ask about it.
about
Get
mold.
nervous about it. Selling the house, mold.
Yeah.
Finding it in the attic, mold. Everywhere you got mold, everyone gets scared about it. But we got the guy today.
We
the
do.
Man, the myth, the legend, Michael Rubino.
All right. So Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been around construction pretty much my whole life. My dad's been a contractor since I'm 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
Mainly dealt with fire restoration, which
Oh.
if you've ever seen a fire, it gets put out by a ton of water, creates a perfect opportunity for mold to grow.
Sure.
And so I pretty much have been seeing mold my whole life in that regard, and dealt with a lot with insurance companies as I got older and kind of saw the whole process and realized there was some fundamental flaws in mold remediation in general, which kind of led to me creating a new process, kind of diving into the science behind that. And it led to this book called The Mold Medic. And now I'm on with you guys.
Yeah.
The pinnacle of your
What
career,
an
I guess. Yes.
adventure. What an adventure.
Yes.
So that's how you got into it. Your dad, construction, fire damage, and then you just said, "Hey, there's a space for me here," and you wanted to do it, right? Basically, how it worked.
Pretty much, I started went to school, started in marketing and things like that. And then, it just came time to where I was like, why don't I utilize what I know in marketing and go work for my dad? And it just took on a life of its own from there. Once I really started to see the problems, I was like, well, this sounds like we just need some new solutions here. And after I started diving into that, it just took on a life of its own.
People are terrified of mold.
Oh, yeah.
Terrified.
Absolutely.
I mean, from A to Z. People who don't even know what mold is, and they're afraid to death if they know if it's in their house or if they're going to buy a house and stuff like that. So I guess now I'd volley it back to you. A lot of dangerous mold, not so much dangerous mold. Some mold is dangerous, or some of it's not.
Well, sure. Yeah. There's 100,000 different types of mold. We don't know
there you
everything about it.
We only got a half-hour show.
Yeah.
we don't even know all 100,000 types of mold that there are. We just know that there are, and it grows. It's been growing ever since. There's obviously parts of mold that are created through water damage. like your Stachybotrys. We've all heard of this term, toxic black mold. That's
Yep.
the marketing term for Stachybotrys. We have Chitomium, which is another toxigenic mold, also tends to be black in color. Another form of, let's call it toxic black mold, right? Then you have Aspergillus, which is interesting because I would say Aspergillus is probably the mold that people are referring to when they say that they have mildew in their house. And typically it's going to be whitish or greenish, could even be pinkish in color, but it's more of like a fuzzier growth, that mildew-like feel that you would experience in your bathroom or something like that. And that's an allergenic mold. The tricky part about that is that allergenic mold can also produce mycotoxins. If I haven't lost you already, mycotoxins are toxins produced by certain species of mold. And
I'm on the edge of my seat, Mike. Keep going.
Right.
All of this is not meant to be scary, right? Because really we're only scared of things we don't know much about. And the idea is that mold is something that we don't know much about, but we should know more about. And honestly, if we control the source of moisture or water coming into the building, we can control the ability for mold to grow. And therefore, when mold comes into our house very naturally, because it's part of our ecosystem, it's not creating this level of toxicity that we need to be worried about.
Interesting. I've never heard anybody say, not to necessarily fear mold. That it's quite normal to have it. So that's very interesting.
So, Michael, if I can share this with you, and this is just in the back of my mind, and I was just thinking about this before. There is a level of trust that you have to have when someone comes to your house, whether it's through the insurance company and they say mold.
Sure.
Because, you may not, like we just discussed really quick. I can't even remember the name of the Astrodophilus mold that you just said. I'm just going to throw it out
close.
there.
You got to give him credit. He was close.
If I don't know mold and I'm just a homeowner, and if you are, if you wanted to take one over on me, which I know you're not the kind of a guy who would do that,
right?
But they can go in there and say, oh my God, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to rip this out, you got to rip that out. And the mold mediation price must skyrocket.
Sure.
I have to be honest. I've been on a job where the walls had just got wet. I mean, it wasn't even 12 hours since the water was, and they're ripping it all out. I mean, and then
they've gotten the whole place. Yeah.
And I'm like saying to myself, do you really need to do that? It didn't even hit that wall. Why are you taking that set of that? I'm saying to myself, why are you taking that wall out?
But like Jimmy said, you also can scare the homeowner into thinking, if that got wet, it's going to grow behind there. You're never going to see it, but it's just going to grow. And, it's going to be a problem down the road. And so that's why I think homeowners just go along with it and say, rip it all out. I don't want to have mold in my walls,
Yeah, I mean, there's things on opposite sides of the spectrum. For me, what I've seen is you have these companies that come in without mentioning any names, but big national companies.
Yeah,
they come
we know
in.
Them. Yeah.
It's been like 3 days since the water happened, and they're just going in and putting like 15 machines in, billing like $200 a day for these machines. And then they're like, but that has to go. That all has to be ripped out. There's mold growing on it. So what was the point of billing $20,000 for all those machines when now you got to do another 20 grand worth of work to fix it? So you have a lot of stuff like that happens that gives people a bad rep. And the insurance companies, obviously, they're pissed at this point. So when you have someone that's trying to do the right thing, they almost are like, prove it. They don't believe it. And so we've really created this culture with these fly-by-night guys and these, these franchises all over the place, really doing things haphazardly. If it just happened 12 hours ago, just so we know, mold can grow in as quickly as 24 to 48 hours. So 12 hours is below that threshold, right? So now at that point, if you dry it out, you're in good shape. The only thing you'd have to worry about is where did the water come from? Are we talking bacteria? Because that's a whole nother story, right? If it's not bacteria, if it was just a leak, it was cleaned up in 12 hours, dehumidification systems, you dry out the space. A couple $1,000s later, the space is dry, there's no damage, you're good to go. Maybe you do some touch-up painting and you're done. Yeah. But so there's two opposite sides of the spectrum. It's doing just the wrong thing altogether. That's not really helpful, billing the insurance company and not really solving a problem. And then there's doing way too much, right? Where you're just like, you have a simple leak in a kitchen, you're like gutting the whole place. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Dude, I have to say, so help me with this one. I'm not really trying to get off the subject here. So say another company goes in there and does mold mediation and they gut everything and the homeowner is skeptical about what they did. Who do they go to check their work? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go to a building inspector if you build something. Who do you go to say, did these mold guys do the right thing? Who do you go to?
You ready for this? It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's called a mold inspector. Very simple. You got a mold remediation guy. Their job is to do the remediation. You have a mold inspector. It's actually a separate certification or license, depending on which state you're in. That actually gives you the capability of testing.
Inspector?
You have really good.
There you go.
Did you lose me?
Yeah, we lost you for a second. Lost you for a second. So all we found out was that there's a mold inspector. So tell us more.
All right. So you basically have two separate certifications or licenses, depending on which state you're in. You have the licensed mold inspector and a licensed mold remediator. The remediator's job is to do the actual work. The assessor or the inspector's job is to actually do the inspection. And what they'll actually do is send the samples to a laboratory to find out if, in fact, there is potentially still mold there. And you'll actually get, real numbers on a page of what's there, if anything at all. And that's your checks and balances. And so, yes, on every project, and some states don't require this, so people can get away with this, but it really should have a mold inspector. Did you guys know that mold is actually between 2 and 4 micrometers? That's a size, by the way. Did you know that the human eye can only see as small as 50 to 60 micrometers?
Okay.
So mold is 25 times smaller than what the visible eye can see.
Huh.
Now you're like, wait a second, but I see mold on the wall all the time, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of it colonized right there for you to physically see it. That's how small we're dealing with. This is a microorganism for a reason. It's microscopic.
Huh. So you wouldn't necessarily see it.
Michael Rubino. I'm telling you. He's good.
So when you do find it, what are the steps that somebody should take? If they think they've got, you said there's different places they're going to get mold too. Like, in the bathroom, they're going to see it and they get nervous. Do we just kills prime it and just forget about it? Or, is it a serious problem? Other areas of the house, what does somebody do when they see it? Okay.
So to answer this question, I got to go with an analogy here. If we look at mold the way we look at a weed, it's going to make life a lot easier. Weeds, they're pesky. They get into our front lawn. They start producing more weeds. How does that happen? Well, weeds produce seeds. Those seeds get aerosolized. The wind blows, right? It takes it in. It falls into the dirt. It rains. Those seeds have water, nutrients they need in the soil, starts to grow. Well, mold is exactly the same way. Mold has roots called hyphae. They grow into your building materials. So when you see it in your drywall, you can't just wipe it away. Wiping it away would be exactly like removing a weed with its stem and not pulling the roots. It's just going to grow right back. We also have to keep in mind about these seeds. We call them spores in the fungal kingdom. And what that means basically is they're just like seeds. Now they need water to grow. But if there's water present, those seeds or spores are going to circulate around the house. And once they find a source of moisture, it'll start to grow and colonizing into more mold. That's how mold becomes a problem. It starts somewhere by its ability to grow, and it starts growing, circulating around the house, finding more opportunity to grow. A house has lots of opportunity. We have kitchens and bathrooms and toilets and all these things that have sources of water where leaks can happen and mold can start to grow. So how do you deal with that? Well, you got to remove mold by its roots. How do you do that? You got to physically cut the drywall out. If there's insulation behind that, you got to physically remove the insulation. That's where it's growing into. Once you do that, you want to, basically scrub down the studs. If it's metal studs, it's very easy. Just wipe it down with any disinfectant with a microfiber towel. Just making sure you physically removed everything that's there. And then we have those spores, those pesky spores. You want to vacuum with a special vacuum called the HEPA vacuum to remove those spores. Do a thorough cleaning with microfiber towels and a disinfectant, right? To remove those seeds and that opportunity for it to grow. That's it. It's that simple. It's very, very simple science. We tend to get daunted over this. Doesn't need to be daunting. But if we don't follow those steps, it's likely to grow back. And that's what happens when you hear these horror stories of a failed remediation. It's exactly just missing one of those steps.
Okay.
Some people say bleach kills all mold. Is that true? That's not true, right?
It's not true, unfortunately. Bleach, they found out, does not kill mold. Also, if you go on the EPA's website right now, actually, if you Google EPA bleach mold, just those 3 words, it'll pop up EPA's website. Should I use bleach to remove mold? And it'll tell you in this note, it's basically this bold letters. It'll say, please note, the objective shouldn't be to kill mold. It should be to remove it, because even dead mold could cause adverse health reactions in individuals who are sensitive to mold, which, by the way, happens to be about 25 to 30% of the population.
Wow. So just having dead mold, just having that in the house could make some people sick.
Yeah. You want to know why?
Why?
All right. So we're going to zoom out a bit.
Uh-oh.
We go on the American Lung Association's website. We look at what's called particulate matter. Particulate matter is basically foreign substances that are in the air that we happen to breathe in, right? Mm-hmm. We know about this term because we've all heard about climate change and outdoor pollution and all that stuff. Well, this happens indoors too. Have you ever sat by a window and saw that ray of light pass by and you just happen to catch all the dust and debris floating around your air and you're like, oh crap, I'm breathing that in?
Yep.
So that's particulate matter. The real danger about mold, for instance, is, again, going back to the size of it, that between 2 and 4 micrometers. Going back to the American Lung Association's website, it says anything smaller than 10 micrometers. The danger is it's so small it passes through our self-defense mechanisms called the respiratory tract, and it immediately enters the bloodstream. So it's very like A to B, right? Mm-hmm. That's really the danger with mold and these particles in general. So having these dead particles or live particles really doesn't matter, because essentially they're still entering our body, causing our immune system to get into this flight or fight response.
All right. So if you've got, say, mold in the bathroom, and you want to rip it down, the drywall and, the insulation, everything else, do you have to worry about it becoming airborne while you're removing it?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. But how you solve that is you basically put the room under negative pressure. How do you do that? Well, think about it like this. Have you ever put a box fan faced outside of a window?
Yep.
During demolition, to control the dust?
Yep.
The exact same concept. You have this negative air mover.
Yeah.
You vent it outside, and what it does, it draws air towards the window and into this piece of equipment trapped in the HEPA filter, and not traveling all outside, making a mess everywhere.
Okay.
That's a big job.
Yeah, it is.
It's a big job.
It is. And that's why people do get nervous about it,
Yeah, when you do it every day, it's like no big deal. It's just another deal, But so when you're faced with this and you have to do something about it and you've never experienced this before, it seems daunting for sure.
Right.
So what's a certain chemical, Michael, that a homeowner could use if they're not going to use bleach? I'm not trying to take food out of your mouth, but I'm just saying if this people are going to want to do something besides scraping it away and trying to kill it. Is there something over the counter you can get, or is there a special formula that you're supposed to have?
No, I mean, I would be lying if I said that you couldn't clean it up with anything that you can get your hands on, right? Benefect Decon 30 is the product that I like because it's botanical. They use it in hospital grade settings. It removes bacteria, viruses, mold, etc. You can get it on Amazon. I think it's like $54 on Amazon. Ships right to your house in 2 days. Like, what else can you not get on Amazon in 2 days these days, right?
Absolutely.
Now you can get your mold supplies there. So, for my DIY people that are looking to remove it, I recommend that. It's great stuff, and it's safe for kids, pets, all that stuff. Because, the thing about chemicals, if we know a lot about chemicals, it'll kill mold. It also is, slowly killing you as well. So
it's killing you, the same thing. Yeah.
I try to do botanical as much as possible, and thankfully there is that route with mold.
And have it be that powerful too, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got some freaking horror stories where you go into a house and the thing has been, it's just a loaf of bread, and people have been living with that stuff for can't understand why they're coughing and sneezing and they're so sick. Because I got a great one. We love these. Go ahead.
All right, so I get a call from I guess it's a gentleman's grandson or something like that. It was a place in Brooklyn, New York. I go out there. It's a basement apartment, which is very common. Honestly, probably not the best living conditions considering it's subgrade, but hey, there we are. I walk in and there's literally mushrooms growing on the wall. I mean, the whole wall is completely black, mushrooms growing on the wall. And this guy's just straight living there. He was an older Italian guy. He spoke not a lick of English. I'm literally trying to communicate with him through Google Translate, basically telling him, you need to get out of your place. This is not healthy. And, it's going to cost a lot of money to fix. Where's your insurance company? I'm like, trying to contact his insurance company. I'm like, this guy doesn't even speak English. Wow. How do we help this guy? Can you come out here? And they denied him coverage because he didn't have mold coverage on his policy. He had to pay everything out of pocket. And this was a guy who saved every single dollar I think he's ever earned in his entire life. I'm pretty sure he just reached under his mattress and was like, here, fix my problem, Right. But it was like, I'll never forget this story because it was just incredible. And this guy was just living there, breathing that in, coughing, had no idea that it was potentially making him sick. And it just really kind of struck a chord with me. Like, wow, there's not enough information out there, education, because we come from this society where it's like, throw some bleach on it, just paint over it with some kills, and we don't really, we haven't studied the effects of it as much as we have, in the past couple of years. So we're moving in the right direction, but man, that was a crazy one.
Wow. All right. So let's go to fact or myth real quick while you just said that.
Sure.
So bleach does not really kill mold. Fact or myth?
Bleach does not really kill mold. That's a fact.
Okay, great. 2, finding mold on the wall, scraping it off, and putting kills on the wall, not necessarily, that does not kill the mold either.
That's a fact that it does not kill the mold.
Bang. Wow. And yet they say it does. No?
Well, it depends. I think Kills does make like a antimicrobial based product these days.
It would encapsulate it, if anything, right?
It encapsulates it with latex, right? That's the idea behind it. But it's still alive behind it. Maybe it goes dormant. Maybe it's not producing as much in the air because you've encapsulated. But typically, the best strategy would be to remove it first, then encapsulate it, because now you've essentially changed that substrate from semi-porous to non-porous, right? And that's going to make things a lot easier for you to clean up later.
Right. Do you find mold in forced air ducts all the time? Do you find that?
I do. I find mold, honestly, almost everywhere. So baseboard heating systems, dust can collect, mold can collect there. If you have any sort of temperature differentials where condensation can develop, it can start to grow. Forced air systems, anything that has a coil or a fin, essentially can harbor dust, debris, mold, and, provide some sort of moisture and opportunity for it to grow, especially if the conditions are there. So I actually like the central AC systems better because in today's technology, you can hook up pieces of equipment to it on the return side that prevent particles as small as 7 nanometers getting to the coil, which is 100 times smaller than mold, by the way. So if you
that's smaller than microbials. That's smaller than microbials.
It's about the size of a virus. So viruses would be 100 times smaller than mold. So yeah, there's a lot.
Why the hell are we worried about COVID for crying out loud? We got the shit everywhere in the house. Oh my God. I'm scared to death.
So when you go to a house, you're looking at, pretty much whatever they can see. So you're going to investigate further. So what do you do? Air tests? Do you try to find other locations to test? Because you can't see it all the time.
Yeah, you want to have a sampling strategy. You want to look for signs of potential water intrusion and then sample to see if there is water intrusion that's created mold growth there. And, one other myth, talking about fact or myth, I think another myth that's important to talk about is a lot of people think that if they've resolved the water problem, that the mold just dies and goes away. That's not exactly what happens. It goes dormant, meaning it doesn't have the moisture to actively be producing, colonizing, growing, etc. So it's going to be producing less output into the air, but it's still there, and there's still going to be some, cross-contamination with it existing. So I think that, we'll have situations where you can go into a home that's, 30, 40 years old, it's had leaks, those leaks are resolved, but there's still mold there. And so you have to kind of look at the history of the house, ask a lot of questions, try to understand if there's anything that could have happened years ago that wasn't repaired properly, and test those areas to see if they're a problem. And then you're going to get lab reports, right? These lab reports are going to say maybe there's 100,000 spores there, or maybe there's 5,000, right? And you can say, well, I think the 100,000 spores would probably be a wise investment to remove that. Whereas, the wall that has 50 spores in it, look, if we're chasing utopia, great, but the 100,000 spores is going to be a lot better money spent than chasing the 50 spores. And the thing about remediation is it's time and material. So it's the same amount of effort to remove 100,000 spores than it is to remove 50 spores. Yep. So we really want to spend our time and money wisely on fixing the problems that are really impacting air quality, so that we know that it's going to have a better chance at making the person feel better.
Yeah.
So if there's bad air quality, then chances are there is something major going on somewhere that you can see.
Yeah,
fine.
Typically.
Yeah. Okay.
What's interesting is, like, again, just going back into the medical community for a second, we take 20,000 breaths per day. So when we're not feeling well, it's amazing that we're not like, hey, I should probably check my air quality, see if there's anything going on there. Typically, we're like, I need to drink more water, or I need to eat better, or maybe I need to go on more walks, right?
Yeah.
It's just really funny to me how we've kind of ignored this whole sector of potential issues that we could be experiencing.
Right. No, very true.
Well, all right. So you're in your home now. They listen to the show and they're like, okay, where do I go from now? If I'm concerned and I have mold in my house,
get out.
I don't want to move. I love my house, but I do feel a little. Is it allergies, or is it? I'm always feeling this way. How do I try to prevent, or how can I stabilize or neutralize the mold in my house that I may have? I can't see them because it's too microbials, because it's like my eye, whatever, but it's there.
Yeah.
How do we neutralize the house?
Well, I think, it's a different answer for every single person. That's what makes this thing so challenging. There's no like blanket statements that hold true for everybody. Every situation is situational, right? So for you, I would say, let's identify if there is a problem, right? Maybe you're having allergies. So maybe you have other situations happening that you're not cognizant of. Maybe it's not mold, right? The way to determine that would be to get an air analysis, to have somebody like a mold inspector come in and look at these problem areas, if there are any, test whatever needs to be tested, and just give you some data of, hey, you do have some mold, or guess what? You don't have any mold. Mold's not your problem. And I think that that's something we should probably add to our annual inspection checklist, checking our air quality. Just like we're supposed to be checking our roofs and windows and doors and making sure that we don't have any potential for leaks, which, let's be honest, I think some of us neglect to do that as well. We kind of tend to be more reactive than proactive. Wait till it's literally raining in our house before we say, I should probably call Larry and get him over here, make a repair here. So I think, these are some things that we should add, in terms of, kind of being proactive. Because guess what? If you find a problem while it's small, it's going to be a lot less expensive to fix than waiting to, before it's literally raining inside your house.
Wow.
I have a horror story for you, Michael.
Okay.
So I'm working on this old house, 1700s, and they have a stone foundation in the basement, sub pump. Sub pump failed, got some water coming in because of the poor drainage, got the sub pump working. About a month later, 2 months later, they're selling the house, and the realtor comes to me and says, Jimmy, can you go over and clean off the fireplace mantle? It's got mold on it. We got to clean it. It was a green mold, probably the kind of the highly toxic kind of mold that you deal with all the time, right, Michael?
Okay.
Right. So anyway, I go over there and I'm by myself, and I start to look on the fireplace and I see it, and I start to wiping it down with bleach, disinfectant, cleaning it down. And for some reason, I looked up, and all the beams in the whole downstairs in the living room, dining room area, which was right above where the water was, all green, all over the beams. All mold all over it. So I had to back out of that one, call the guys, put respirators on. We had to wipe down all the mold. You get it at Home Depot or Lowe's, X14.
Okay.
It's supposed to kill mold. I think that's what we used. It was a red bottle, and we sprayed down the beams and everything else and sprayed everything down. And they sold the house. As far as I know, everyone's still alive. I hope.
You haven't gotten the follow-up call yet?
But I know when I walked out of there, though, I was like, there was none. I mean, as far as I know now that I can't see it.
Yeah, no.
Whatever I saw seems to be gone, but that basement's a problem. It's leaking through the floorboards, the whole beam, the whole floors. So still didn't have that problem.
Yeah, no,
Now,
I can understand that horror story and having to be faced with that, and doing whatever you thought was right and trying to help out everybody involved, and you did the best you could, right?
Is there a filtration system you can buy to put in your house that would either zap mold or kill mold or shoot something in the air while you're living there to try to keep the mold down? Is there anything that's invented like that?
Well, there's a device called a whole home air purification system that ties in your HVAC. I kind of mentioned it a little earlier, and what it does, it just removes tiny particles from the air. So as that air circulates, it basically turns the HVAC system, which is kind of like the lungs of the home, into a gigantic air purification system. So it's gonna trap all these particles that normally would just recirculate around your house and get into your breathing zone and enter your body, and it's going to trap them and remove them. That's the most effective way to do it. And then obviously, when you do know of a problem where there could be potential mold growing somewhere, you go ahead and eliminate that, with a mold inspector, with a mold remediator. But that's probably the best way to not only maintain thereafter, but to take care of some of the issues you could be recirculating around your house today.
and how about like a dehumidifier? Does that help too? Keep
Oh
the
yeah,
moisture
definitely.
low? Yep.
So, in basements and crawl spaces, that's typically part of our process. Like we're putting some sort of product like Sherman-Williams locks on the walls, slowing that vapor diffusion, and then we're installing a dehumidifier again, just keeping up with humidity and removing the moisture from the air. Because typically, once you have a relative humidity of 60% or greater, which can happen very easily in basements or crawl spaces, you have this environment where mold can start to grow, and that's typically how it happens. So with subgrade spaces like that, I mean, dehumidification systems are great. Or if you happen to live in a humid area like Florida, for instance, a whole house dehumidification system to make sure that your humidity is kept under control is a fantastic idea.
Gotcha. Now at the box stores, they do sell like mold kits, so you can see if you got mold. You open something up and you see what grows on it and stuff like that. Do those work?
A petri dish, like?
It's kind of like a petri dish. Yeah.
I mean, they work. They're limited in ability, right? I mean, a lot of these things, they'll like turn pink or something if there's mold, and it's like, okay, I have mold, but it doesn't tell you where it's coming from,
right?
What to do about it, right? There's no actionable plan there.
Right.
So I think it those things tended to scare the crap out of people more than they actually can help. So I would say it's probably better. Like if you are having an argument with your husband or wife and you're like, that's mold, and you want to get that and swab it and show them, yeah, it's pink, look, it's mold, that's one thing. But if you're looking for like an action plan and you want to know what you can do about it, I don't think that's the right route to go. I think it may just give you a false sense of, I guess, security that, you now know what it is, but you no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Jay. He's very mold sensitive. He can smell it.
Really?
When I had my Chevy S10 pickup, I got out of my truck and he was like, "Oh, dude." I'm like, "What? You smell like mold?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Where? And then he walked over to my truck and he smelled my truck. He was like, "Oh my god!" So it had to do something with like my radiator or something. There was water, or when the truck got wet, so there was mold like in the car, in the carpet, and he's just like. He just gets nauseous. I mean, I could hire him out to find mold in the house because he could smell it.
Could you smell the pot?
He doesn't do pot.
Okay.
No, but he could smell mold. He could smell mold.
He can work for the police.
Yeah. For the mold police.
Right, the mold police.
You got mold
or
in it.
The mold medic.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you say, Michael?
No, I've had clients that literally have made that joke. Like, I'm like a mold sniffing dog, they'll say. They can just tell instantly. And it's true because, typically when your immune system's weakened, your body reacts in a way where it creates heightened sense so that you can kind of know what's going on to keep you from, experiencing or exposing yourself to these things. So there's people that literally can smell it from a mile away, and that's kind of how they know to stay away.
Interesting. Yeah. So tell us about your book.
Well, the book is called The Mold Medic, an expert's guide on mold removal. Basically, I wrote that book because after being in the industry for nearly a decade, helping people who typically are sensitive to mold, like your friend, or know that they're not feeling well and it's attributed to high levels of mold in their house, we've been handling that for people. And I realized that there was some changes that we've made internally to be the best that we possibly can be at doing that. And there was fundamentals missing from the industry. The industry follows, these standard guidelines by the IICRC S520 for mold remediation, and there is fundamental flaws in just missing some of those things that we've noticed that have really helped people. So I wanted to get into the hands of, the right people. Maybe you're sensitive to mold. You pick up that book, you want to read it so you can educate yourself on how to, choose the right person, choose the right inspector, do it yourself, right? And now you have that information to do so. Or maybe you're an industry professional and you're like, hey, I want to see what this guy Michael Rubino does. He's got something, because people keep calling him, right? So maybe they pick up the book and they read it and they're like, I want to try this stuff myself. Yeah. The idea is I want to help people, and it's not going to be one house at a time. It's got to be other people doing exactly what we're doing. So hoping that the book sparks enough interest from everybody to kind of change the way we look at mold and how to handle it the right way.
Nice. Have you ever thought about sending a book to the government, going, hey, by the way, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
Really, sign it. Sign the book. Y'all, best of luck, Michael Rubino. Try this out. Hate you. Freaking knock on the door, guys in suits. Yeah. What do you think?
I've written letters to the State Department on certain things. I mean, this is a long uphill battle there. I mean, there's still some states don't even have laws around mold. I mean, there's just a lot of work that needs to be done just to have basic protections for consumers regarding mold remediation, or even insurance, right? And how the insurance companies handle claims. So yes, there is, you're right. There is a lot of work that needs to be done on the government side.
Michael, I have to say that I am intrigued of your knowledge of this. You're not pitching a company, but you're really giving us an education, which I know our audience will really love what you've done.
Yeah.
But I think if I may give it a step further for you, I would really be tickled pink if you went to the federal government or the Congress, or if they ever have like this insurance convention, and you could speak about that, because it is such a hot and dangerous issue that people are now, when you say mold, it's just like, it's scary. It's like,
it's not just intelligence.
Fire in the house, it's just
it's feelings.
The house is falling down.
Yeah, no, well, you'll be pleased to know I'm in the works of starting a 501c nonprofit called the Healthy Home Initiative, and that's going to be the primary goal of the foundation, is going to be to remediate underprivileged families who can't afford remediation, may not have homeowners insurance, and also to create that education and awareness, lobbying the government for the right change, and that's so drastically needed. And so yes, it's on my radar. You're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head, and I can't wait to see what comes of that.
Dude, you are a great person.
Yeah,
you really are. You're a wonderful,
and you got good energy. It's gonna happen for you.
Yeah,
I'm really glad. I appreciate that, guys.
Oh,
you're
really?
welcome.
And please stay in touch with us and send us texts or emails and stuff. Let us know what you're doing and how you're progressing with this.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Yeah, we'll post it and let people know about.
Well, do you guys have Instagram? Because I feel like we need to now follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely do. Yep, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah. Now, how do people get the book?
So you get the book by going to themoldmedic.com, which will point you to either Amazon or Barnes & Noble, which is available on both, depending on, what device you got.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it. Goodreads, I think, as well carries it if you're into that, and hopefully more bookstores are picking it up every day.
Do you have an audio book?
I don't have the audio book yet.
No. Have Jimmy.
I got to get on
Jimmy
that.
read it.
You want me to do it for you?
Jimmy will read it for you.
That'd be great.
This is bad stuff. This is bad stuff.
You're gonna have that New Hampshire accent. Your book.
I'll be playing.
You know what? I'm sold. We should talk.
Yeah. Where are you from now? Right now, where are you from?
I'm actually from New Jersey. That's where our company's headquartered, and I am now in Tampa, Florida. So we opened up an office here a couple of years ago, and when the pandemic hit, I was like, I'd probably feel better if I was locked inside my home, also in Florida, where it's nice and warm.
Yeah.
And so took that plunge.
Yeah, you're speaking my language now. Yeah. Absolutely. And I have to say, I think this is our first author we've had on the program.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Look at us.
That's fantastic. I'm glad that I got to break the author cherry there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got the Stephen King of mold.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about mushrooms.
I come in, I'm like, guys, it's not scary stuff. And then I start naming statistics and all these other things. And
Yeah,
like,
it's scary stuff. Yeah.
Wait, what did he say?
Yeah. Hey, do you wear ventilation, your equipment, stuff like that? You ever got sick from being in a house? I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I've walked into houses trying not to scare people with a spacesuit on, just to at least get to meet them, and or sit at their kitchen counter and take my mask off for a little bit to have a candid conversation, and I've left feeling pretty ill. Yeah, definitely. And I'm, like, so much so where I'm like, how is that person living there and not, dead? I mean, because I would get sick just like almost immediately after leaving. So there's been cases like that where I'm like, wow, it's amazing. This person must be such a strong immune system, because I was even feeling it just for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. Right. So,
wow.
Were you with me when we went into that lady's house?
Yeah. I thought for sure you were going to bring this up. Yeah.
And she had the mothballs?
Yes.
Remember the mothballs were in the house?
Yes.
She's sitting there in the chair?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, what are you doing? This is toxic. She had mothballs to hide the mold and the smell, to make the house smell fresh.
Yeah.
I swear to God, she must have had at least a 5-gallon bucket of freaking mothballs all through the house. It was horrific.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the house we worked on?
Yeah, the other house that we worked on.
With the yellow rug,
Yeah.
the shag rug, and the freaking mold
and
on
the mold on the wall.
On the wall. It was
and
black.
it was their daughter that was staying in the apartment, and the parents like, nah, she's fine. I'm like,
man.
okay.
It was a gambrel roof. We went to go change the shingles, and I go to strip it, and my shovel went right through the roof, right into the wall.
Yeah, I think there's like 7 or 8 layers on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go in the house, and I'm like, dude, you cannot believe this. It was black.
Oh,
Wall
so
was
gross.
black.
Yeah.
So gross.
Yeah, I've had some hoarder situations with mold, and it's like, I know what your problem is. You got crap everywhere, and it's just creating trap moisture everywhere. And this is a big problem. You got to, trying to have somebody part with some of their stuff, who can't do it, is mentally just can't do it.
Right.
It's really tough. But we've had to, almost become like personal therapists at that point, and help them overcome that mental challenge to deal with the mold. And it can be pretty crazy.
I was going to say that's like almost a no-win situation for you, because I mean, they've got to get rid of stuff in order for you to be able to treat the place. And
if
they can't do it, then that's tough.
Yeah.
Well, this was a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Rubino, thank you very much for coming on the program. We do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome.
Absolutely.
You kidding me?
I'd be happy to come on again.
Oh, we'll do it. No,
We will.
We will.
Yep.
I mean, there's things that come up, and then we'll probably need a mold fix.
Yeah.
Maybe a buzz.
Yeah.
I'll come in as the impromptu mold expert that just kind of, talks a few minutes about certain things.
Sure.
Scares everybody, but says it's okay.
Right.
We got a solution. Here we go.
Well, you know what, Michael? Honestly, if you since we're going to do the Instagram thing, and if we get in touch with email and stuff like that, if you come across something that says like just bonkers crazy and how to a remedy, let us know, because I know we're going to get emails from the show.
Oh, absolutely.
People are going to be asking questions, and we'll get them back out to you, and we'll try to get the answers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a great show idea for the next time. We'll talk about mold and new construction, and that'll be a mind-blowing discussion.
That would be good. That would be good.
I was a framer, and I worked on even on the hotels, Mohegan and Foxwood and stuff like that. And when it rained, it poured, and it rained through that building. Yeah, and there's standing water there. So,
but then now new construction is a non-breathable house. So,
yeah,
we got plenty to talk to.
We got plenty to talk about, definitely.
Absolutely, yes. All right, once again, Michael Rubino, thank you very much for joining us. Everybody, pick up the book Mold Medic, and if you're in the New Jersey or Tampa Bay area, call All American Restoration.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, Jimmy, another great show. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see everybody next week.
See ya.
See ya, bye.